Alright, here we are again, another day. I'm doing a shift lever overhaul today. I got the kit from eurosportaccessories.com. Step one today was to jack up the front end of the car, which entailed pulling the front bumper, or whatever, splash guard. Alright, the next bit here is the fun part. So we're on the inside. So step one is to twist off this shifter knob. And once it comes free, come on, pull that off. And then you remove the boot here, which is pretty simple. You literally just lift up on it and it comes out. And then the next step is to remove the center console. All right, the center console is now removed, as you can see. I had to shift the gear lever into fourth here to take it off because of the angle that I'm at. Don't really have a lot of room in here to remove it. Plus, there were two screws that I wasn't thinking about because this car did come with the ashtray option, so there was an additional two screws holding it to the rest of the car right there. And then there were, of course, a couple electrical connectors. But now the next step is to drop the exhaust pipe, which is always fun. Here we are, it's the next day. I just ended up not recording a lot of it because it was getting dark and I was just trying to get through the job as quickly as I could. So I ended up not dropping the exhaust because the bushing that I had to get to replace that was underneath the exhaust was actually in good condition. So I ended up not having to do that. Here, let me see if I can get the camera down through here. All right, so this is part of it. This is where the linkage meets the transmission. So I swapped the bushings here. The bushings are a little dirty because my hands were greasy, but these are actually new. So this white bushing is new. This connector arm up here, where is it? Come on. This connector arm down here is new. And then, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get that. And then, if you look on the left side, right here where the thing's moving, this bushing's new. I put a new relay shaft in as well, which you might not be able to see. But that's basically, it's the top of this right here. So underneath this silver piece is a plastic ball, which sits at the end of the shift rod. That is new. The bushings on top and bottom of the relay shaft were completely missing, so that is responsible for a lot of the slop. And as you can see, now that we're back on the inside, I already put the gear shifts back together. That was the last thing I did last night. And let me just show you how much of a difference it is. I mean, you won't be able to tell, but you probably won't be able to tell, but it was a lot sloppier. You really couldn't tell what gear you were going into, and that was primarily because of those relay shaft bearings, or bushings rather. They were completely gone. It was just metal on metal, so it's probably about the spindles on the relay shaft. The ends are probably about that wide, and then the hole that they go into is about that wide. So it's a little piece of metal in a big hole. So lots of slop, but now that those bushings are actually in there, this shift's a lot better. As you can see, it actually, there's a tiny bit of resistance. So you can't just like accidentally go into some gear. Yes, I know the boot's broken. I need to replace that eventually, but I'm just trying to get the thing to run now. So this should definitely help driving. Now that when you go to shift, you'll actually be able to tell what gear you're going into, since now that you've got some feedback. The only parts that I didn't install were a new shift lever, which is what the knob is screwed to, because that I also would have had to drop the exhaust for. And also part of the reason I didn't drop the exhaust is because on this particular car there are spring clamps holding the exhaust on, and you need special Volkswagen tool, and I do not have that tool. And as I said, the bushing for the shift rod, which is the long black horizontal piece which connects this to the linkages, that bushing was actually in pretty decent condition, so I didn't need to replace that. Plus the shift lever here is not in a bad shape either, so I just ended up not replacing that bushing and the shift lever here because I couldn't drop the exhaust, and luckily for me they were in good enough shape, but everything else was replaced. The connecting arms were replaced, and all the other bushings were replaced. So, but now she shifts nice nice, like a normal car, like a like a real car should shift when you're shifting it. Of course, it's still got the slack from side to side, which is absolutely fine. But when you actually go into a gear now, you can hear the linkage moving. First of all, the linkage sounds a lot smoother. Like when you used to move this into a gear, it was clanging, like it was loud, because, you know, it was metal on metal. But now it's nice and smooth, and it shifts like a good car should. And in addition to doing the last minute things on the linkages, I'm going to drop in a new alternator today, because as I mentioned a couple episodes ago, the alternator was broken. So that's actually, luckily for me, is actually a pretty easy job on this car. So this should take, you know, no more than an hour. Alright, so I just unboxed the alternator. I just wanted to show it to you before it goes in. And this is a Duralast gold alternator. I'll be sure to pull the part number and drop that down in the description. Okay, the old alternator was removed. It was pretty simple, except for the bolt that goes through the bracket right here. Unfortunately, the upper piece of the timing chain cover was in the way, so I had to remove that. So obviously now I have to be careful to not get anything in there. But the bolt is basically impossible to get out without removing the timing chain cover, which the manual does not cover. As of course, all repair manuals, you know, are not perfect. I just, you know, I would have liked to known in advance if I had to do that, but you know, I took it off now. It's no big deal. It's actually quite grimy on the outside, so I sprayed it down with some engine degreaser. I'm gonna clean the cover before I put it back on, but now it's time to put in the new alternator. Okay, wee bit of a problem. So I was reinstalling the alternator, and I noticed that that this pulley on the new one does not come out nearly far enough to accommodate the belt, which means I have to take the pulley off the old one. And unfortunately, I need a large Allen to do that, and guess what, I don't have a set of Allens. So I gotta run to the store real quick, pick up some Allens so I can take the pulley off of this and put the new one on. Alright, and because nothing is ever easy, I had to go out and get a different 24mm socket to actually fit inside the alternator here to swap the pulleys. And the breaker bar method is not working, and unfortunately I don't have a vise. And if I did have a vise, it probably wouldn't be big enough to fit the alternator in it securely. So now I have to go run out and find the impact gun in the back of the work truck, and that should take it off. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to use an impact socket to remove that bolt because the wall is very thin, so I have to use a regular socket. I did specifically buy this Duralast socket right here though. For this purpose. It was only a couple bucks, and you know, if it gets destroyed, that's fine, because all I needed to do is to swap the pulleys here. So if it gets broken in the process, that's fine, but you know, usually you shouldn't use a regular vanadium chrome socket with an impact gun. Oh well. Alright, I used the impact to swap the pulleys. Miraculously, that 24mm socket didn't even crack, so it can be used for other things. And as you can see, put the old longer pulley on the new alternator, so now it should just be as simple as dropping it back in. Also, I picked up a set of Allen bits while I was there, just to make my job of putting the bottom alternator bolt back in, because it is an Allen bolt instead of a regular one, which is kind of weird to me, but I think that's how German cars roll. Here we are, new alternator is installed. The belt is tensioned properly. That's not wiggled. It's all hooked back up. Positive boots over the positive connection. Negative is hooked up to the negative. So now I just need the ignition coil so I can fire up the car to verify that the alternator works. While I'm in here today, I'm also going to change the oil, and I do have another battery for this, so I'm just going to swap out the batteries today as well. So this little car is getting all kinds of things done to it today. Alright, battery's been swapped, oil's been changed, new alternator, and we're done for today. That's it. Alright, wrapping up here. Last thing to do is to go drop the old alternator off to get the core charge back and recycle this old oil that I just changed. And then I'm done for the day. I'm calling it quits. And I just had to pick up one more quart of the 15W40 because I wasn't reading the Bentley manual super close. I thought it said the engine took 4 quarts. What it actually said was it took 4 liters of oil, which is 4.2 quarts. So, you know, I gotta add like 5 or 6 more ounces of oil into the engine for it to be fully full. So that's that. I'm probably gonna do this tomorrow though. I seriously am done today. Alrighty, signing off. See you again.